everybody, and welcome to the Waterloo Region Electric Vehicle Association Electrifying News for August of 2021. I am joined by my co-host. We have Mr. Eric Stevens out in Listowel. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Mark.
Excellent, great to hear. And also joining us from the downtown core, Mr. Ian Graham from Kitchener. How are you today, sir?
Steaming hot.
Well, it's kind of expected.
Kind
of expected for August, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't want my AC noise coming into the podcast here, so I turned it off. So by the end of the podcast,
oh, that's great. So you're going to start melting at any moment. So that's another exciting part of the podcast for the viewers at home.
Glass of water, might dump it on my head halfway. We'll see.
Well, we've got a bunch of news to share with you out there of stories around Waterloo Region, Ontario, and Canada. So let's get to it. Ian, fire up the presentation.
All right. So, WREVA Electrifying News. Here we go. All right, Mark, lead us on the first slide here.
First story is that Q1 sales of electric vehicles jumped up to 4.6%. That is an increase of 1.1% year over year for Q1 of 2020. And this particular stat, of course, all the stats that we're quoting are linked to articles that you can find in the show notes, so you can go into detail if you would like after the show. But this kind of outlines the increase in EV sales for Q1 in Canada. And it's good to see the numbers going up. What was kind of interesting was that the biggest jump was with hybrid vehicles. So the combination of both a hybrid vehicle like a Toyota Prius, and the Prius, for example, plug-in, or the Prime, I believe it's called. So that is the biggest increase in electric vehicles, is that category, whereas the category of pure electric vehicle, that went up about almost 1% from a year ago. So we are getting some traction. And what I like to tell people when they say they're kind of disappointed that the hybrid took the lead in this particular survey, is that once people get a taste of electric, they typically want to drive more and more miles on electric. And I can definitely defer to Mr. Ian Graham with his Chevy Volt, and how once he got the Volt, I know that he wanted to drive more and more electric every day. So it's something that sticks in the back of your mind, and typically those people will move to full electric vehicles after a stint with hybrids.
For sure. And and I remember, Mark, when you said to me, like, it becomes a bit like a game in terms of like how far can I go in one charge? And you go down a hill and you put it, like, what's better? Do you put it in neutral, or do you do the braking? I was constantly playing with that sort of hypermiling. But when it came down to it, I would say I'm one of those people who, when I saw the sales of hybrids double, one hand, it's like, oh, that's great. People are getting a taste of electric. And the other hand, I'm like, come on, it's like we got ranges of 450 plus kilometers now. And, 90% of our drive is less than 60 kilometers in the, daily driving and that. So, but, if it does at least give them a taste of, electric, and then they start to realize, like, wow, I can get around, no problem. Like, well, yeah, what did I do with gas? So yeah. It's a transition.
Yeah, and I find a lot of the plug-in hybrid vehicles are kind of like a crutch. They get you into driving EV, and they get you you realize how much you can actually do even when some of these vehicles have 50 to 80 kilometers of range, and you're able to still do almost 90% of your driving with that, all electric. I think one of the other things that's interesting going on right now is with the supply chain issues that are happening right now. It's hard to see how much of this increase is, there might be limits to where this increase is coming from, simply because we can't supply to meet the demand right now. So it's hard to see, if supply was sufficient, how much more EV sales would actually be there if we didn't have the chip shortages and stuff like that. And one other big factor I've seen lately is gas prices. Gas prices have shot up, and they're higher than they've been in a very long time. So I think that always scares people into looking at more fuel efficient options. So.
Yeah, I hope that we can follow this up with a Q2 report, and hopefully this same publication will report on it through the year, because it's so hard to get numbers sometimes, especially consistent numbers from organizations. So we'll have to keep our eye on this particular news media outlet to see if we can get some more numbers throughout the quarters of 2021.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm impressed with BC there, though. Almost 10% of sales as battery electric vehicles. That's impressive.
Yeah. One couple of things that came to my mind. New Brunswick is 0.45%, but now that they've got an incentive, like you say, Mark, with the second quarter, what's that going to mean for the sales that way? The other thing that I found interesting was that with BC, they like almost 10%. But majority of it was like Vancouver and then Victoria. Outside of those areas, and it's the same thing with Ontario, it was mostly Toronto. Outside wasn't quite so much. Like it was still very much focused in those centers. But again, over time, I think that's going to change.
Yeah.
So, all right. Eric, EV Connect.
Yeah, so there was some news recently. And I don't know how many people out there remember the good old Koben Systems KSI, and a lot of cursing involved with this charging network. These were the guys that in the first round of, back when we had an Ontario government that cared about electric vehicles, the first round of funding to install charging infrastructure, KSI received about half of the funding to put in roughly half the chargers into them, and they weren't well thought out. They were rushed, and they had many problems to the point where they've practically given up today. Well, EV Connect has now stepped in. This is a company that's based in the U.S. Today, they run many chargers in California. They run a number of chargers through the New York Thruway and I-90 through New York State. And now they're coming in and they're taking over KSI and myEVroute. They're taking over a bunch of their resources and infrastructure, and they're going to be doing some updates, imposing their new software solution and system, and hopefully getting some of this infrastructure back up and running.
Nice.
So are they taking over some of the ones that that KSI had started with, or is this just an offshoot that will continue to try to grow the network for ones that never were put in place?
That's a good question. I don't know. As far as I know, they're taking over infrastructure. I don't know if they have plans for further expansion beyond that at this point.
Okay.
But I do know, KSI has a number of units. Even here in Listowel, KSI has a 50 kilowatt charger at a Scotiabank here that's been sitting largely dormant for the last year plus. So it'd be nice to see them get that back up and running.
Are you saying it's sitting dormant in Listowel because it doesn't work, or because it's just not used?
Because it doesn't work.
Okay.
I think the only thing I really can add to this is that, yes, I do remember hearing a lot of people swearing about the systems not working, and also the amount of money that was given to KSI to put this in. And, it just seemed kind of a really haphazardly done. It wasn't really like you said, well thought out.
Yeah, and they do have a number of chargers in locations today that still the charging situation is somewhat scarce. So they have a number of chargers in Northern Ontario, and even my family's hometown in Chatham, they have the only 50 kilowatt DC fast charger there right now. So it would be nice to see those units get put to better use and back up and running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. All right. So something that all of us keep hearing about is all these electric vehicle car batteries are going to landfills. And even funny enough, last night I saw somebody had posted this huge, trying to compare the gas used, fuel used by airplanes and compared to the mining of all the batteries, and then trying to then say they're not recyclable and everything else. And our last podcast, we did talk about the fact that there are companies, one in Quebec, one in New York State, that are recycling 95% of the batteries. The one in New York State is actually on the stock exchange. And then Europe also is having companies doing this. But also this just this week, Tesla also said that, our batteries, we're recycling our batteries as well. And they're reportedly that they're producing no waste as well with this. So when you look at the process that they're doing with this, they can recycle 1,300 tons of nickel, 400 tons of copper, and 80 tons of cobalt last year alone. So that's really impressive. It'd be interesting to know if the 1,300 tons of nickel, if you went to Sudbury and said, okay, what does 1,300 tons of nickel look like? How much mining is actually done for something like that? And, how many trucks is that involved? And just to kind of do a comparison that way.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing to keep in mind with this, with Tesla, though, is they said the vast majority of what they currently recycle comes from its own research and testing programs. So if you have a 2012 Tesla and the battery, gets replaced, I'm not saying that they're just going to throw that battery away, but it'll probably be another company that will be doing the recycling for that. I don't think that Tesla is quite involved that way with, recycling their own batteries, at least with the actual consumer cars that are out on the road. It's hard to say down the road what that will mean if Tesla will get more involved with something like that, or maybe they look at it as like, well, we got third-party companies that will already do this, and quite honestly, maybe it's a venture that they'd rather see someone else do and do it well. So.
As you may know, Tesla, they had a major partner in the company was J.B. Straubel,
Yes.
who worked with Tesla from the beginning. He, of course, has now left and started up a recycling unit called Redwood Materials. And Redwood is now ramping up. And I believe there's been no formal discussion of a deal between Tesla and Redwood, but J.B. Straubel left Tesla at a very high position, and the separation was amicable. That everyone was happy with it. So I gotta believe there's something in the background between Tesla and Redwood that's going to be announced in the future. As Redwood in Utah, I believe they've got a Nevada site, and guess what else is in Nevada? Of course, Gigafactory 1. So there could be a strong, to me, there's a strong connection there that Tesla's probably going to use Redwood Materials as a recycler. One other thing I wanted to comment on is some people say, well, I don't believe it's all being recycled because I see them at junkyards. Well, the answer to that, of course, is that these vehicles do sit at junkyards for some time. The junkyard owner has purchased that vehicle. It is now an asset to that junkyard. And typically they will keep that asset until they can sell it or get some sort of value back for the pack to the third party. To groups like Ian, who will build solar boats. There's a market for these batteries. But if by chance those batteries cannot be sold to another group, then that junk dealer is not just going to push that battery out to a landfill. They're going to send it back to a Redwood or other company that recycles them because it's worth a deposit. There's money in those batteries, whether they work or whether they don't. So a junkyard is not just going to send them off to a landfill. They're going to collect that deposit by sending it to a third-party recycler.
Yeah, there are many steps in the process that are always trying to extract maximum value out of every component of the vehicle throughout its entire life. And this is actually required. The automotive industry and many jurisdictions have a mandate that products have to be designed to have end-of-life care taken into account. So companies have a duty, and most of the jurisdictions that they operate in, that they have to design the products to be recyclable, to be properly disposed of. So, and we're seeing that now play out, obviously, now that electric vehicles are becoming much more popular. Obviously, now the end-of-life factor is becoming much more important, and demonstrating how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to make another comment that is an interesting little fun fact that, right now today, 80% of the world's copper that's used today is actually from recycled materials. So a lot of the raw materials that are out there today come from the recycling economy and not necessarily from mining. So we're going to continue to see that, including in the automotive industry. I worked when I was much younger as a co-op student at Ford Windsor Casting, and we took old engine blocks and crankshafts and melted them down and made new engine blocks and crankshafts. So that's what we did.
Yeah. I was going to mention with just in regards to my boat, the 4 Tesla batteries that I purchased, I got from a gentleman at Taves Power, Ken Taves, and his 13-year-old son bought a salvaged Model S and tore that thing apart bit by bit. 13 years old, keep in mind. And he sold each of the Tesla parts bit by bit to people who, someone needed a door handle or someone needed an actual motor. But the batteries, there's 16 modules, and he advertised it on Facebook, and it was a friend of mine who pointed it out to me, and unfortunately got me on this journey of building this boat thing. But yeah, it was a 13-year-old kid who tore apart the Model S, and I think his dad told me that he made about 10 grand salvaging this Model S out. So there you go. So like Mark, like you said, we see the car in the the lot there, and it's like, yeah, but like you're right, it's it's going to be reused for something or other. So, all right. This one I really like, especially with what we were talking about, just with me looking to tow my 21-foot boat with the Model 3, and I more look at it, it's like, yeah, I can do it, but it's going to be affecting the range. One thing, but it's funny, like this is actually, I would say 2-3 years ago, it's an idea that in my head, it's like, well, why don't they put electric motors and a battery in the trailer? And sure enough, somebody comes along, and that's
exactly what this German company did. So they decided that they were going to, of course, the dynamics of towing any type of trailer drags on the electric vehicle range. And you are definitely going to see a range hit when you're towing something of the size that we see here in this photo. You're definitely going to lose at least half of your range towing something that big and that takes up that type of wind space and the drag that is produced, especially towing the vehicle at highway speeds. So this company decided, why not put some sort of a battery and electric drive on the trailer axle and allow the vehicle to assist the car towing it to reduce the drag on it. And this particular model that they're testing with has about 80 kilowatts of batteries, 40 in front of the axle, 40 behind the axle to keep it balanced. And it has a module in it that keeps track of the speed it's going and what type of assist it is providing to the vehicle. In this case, an Audi e-tron. And apparently, with the tests that they've been doing in Europe, the drop-off of range for the Audi e-tron has basically disappeared. The trailer itself has been able to move itself over hundreds of miles and not affect the range any adversely to the Audi e-tron in this particular case. So very interesting, and it's something that that people that tow with electric vehicles only know too well, that they're going to have a huge range hit, especially again at highway speeds.
Yeah.
Another interesting part that they've added to this is that they thought, well, since it's assisting the car, why don't we even allow an application to allow this trailer to move when it's not connected to a car? So if you have to move it around at a campsite, or you've got to move it into a backyard or something for storage, you have the ability to, with an app, control the movement of the trailer without even it being towed or pushed with another vehicle. So another win for people that store or move trailers around. This will allow it to move a little bit more seamlessly as the trailer will power itself and help move it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A lot of people, don't trailers affect the efficiency of all vehicles. They're going to be impacted because you're carrying the extra weight. Now with EVs, it's a little bit more amplified because EVs are more efficient. And because they're more efficient, that means a trailer takes up a bigger percentage of the total energy used. So you see the impact a bit more in trailers, but this is a cool concept. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I've seen a few concepts like this. I've seen ones. This is the first one I've seen that's full electric, very well thought out, because they've even got software in there to make sure that you have a constant tension applied to the tow bar. That way you're not pushing the car, but you're pulling it just the right amount so that you maintain good safety and stability in the trailer. I've seen a couple other concepts too, which are, they're not as big a battery as this one. This one has a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack, or two 40 kilowatt hour battery packs. It's 80 kilowatt hour battery pack. But I've seen some that just have a smaller 2 kilowatt hour battery pack, approximately, and they can act as a trailer brake controller, and they sort of so if your EV is going downhill, they can act as to help brake the unit and slow you down, and then when you're going back up the hill, they can assist as well too. And while they not as efficient as this, they will help mitigate some of the losses as well. So
another bonus with this that I've even failed to mention is that when you're at your campsite, you can of course plug this into the campsite and it can charge up that 80 kilowatt battery over time. But on top of it, the 80 kilowatts can also be used to power the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So your lights, your stove, whatever, can pull off of that 80 kilowatts as well. So another bonus that you've got an off-grid energy source that's traveling with you.
Yeah.
I didn't notice. Does that thing have solar panels on it too? I wonder. Oh, it does.
Yeah. It supports solar cells if you want to put them on the roof. Which to me, like, why wouldn't you? If you're at that point, why wouldn't you? Yeah.
So what you're saying is I need to take this and live in it in my parking lot at work.
Yeah. Well, if you think like 80 kilowatts and you park this thing, I mean, an average home uses about 30 kilowatts a day, but this is just a small trailer. 80 kilowatts, I'm sure is going to give you probably a good week plus of power between the stove and the fridge and everything else that's in there. So, and then if you got the solar on top of it, it's
you've got basically a mini generator that with the draw that comes from the things in the trailer, it could be self-sustaining just with solar.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Now the one, and this isn't by any means I'm saying a downfall at all, but the one thing that has come up, especially too when we're getting now into electric trucks, and it came up as well, and when we talk about the Cybertruck and it towing. How do you charge? Because the charging stations, the way they're set up right now, are not really very good for the car and the trailer. In a lot of cases, are you going to have to unhitch the trailer to go charge your car? But in this case, I can see a whole different sort of charging aspect might have to be kind of considered, where you have the charger for the car and the charger for the trailer. Otherwise, you're going to be like waiting to do one and then the other, unless you can do both at the same time at a certain spot. So this is, that's the only area that I can see that's going to be a bit of a challenge, especially if this starts getting popular.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at the charging infrastructure and how they're starting to do things in Norway right now. You're starting to see charging stations kind of laid out more closely resembling gas stations. Mm-hmm. And because of that, now you're actually able to do full pull-through parking, basically. You don't need to unhitch the trailer. You can actually pull in and do this. And you're seeing this with Ionity in Europe, and you're also, Tesla's even got some supercharger sites that are like that now as well, too. Where they actually have pull-through parking sites. And which is interesting like this is something where you could potentially pull in, plug your car into the first charger, and then plug your trailer into the second charger behind it. So you might be able to charge both at the same time on 2 different charging stations.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how that will come about, because it will be a challenge. But yeah, I can definitely, I could see like a route like Trans-Canada. I could see that being adjusted for this type of thing.
Yeah, definitely the popular routes where you see a lot of trailers being pulled. Definitely setting up charging infrastructure with full pull-through parking, I think, would be ideal.
Yeah. So cool. I'm looking forward to this. So, all right. Eric, All EV Canada. I never heard of this until when you sent me this article. So this is really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a company that was started a few years ago, and basically they're a used car dealer. Originally, they started as a used car dealer, and they started in Nova Scotia. And basically, they purchase and service just electric vehicles, basically, and they purchase and they sell them used. And these guys were based out in Nova Scotia, and the concept has been very popular. So they've been expanding. So they went and expanded into Prince Edward Island, and they have a second location. And then recently, just a couple weeks ago, they were acquired by the Steele Auto Group, which owns like 50 car dealers in Eastern Canada. And the Steele Auto Group said, hey, we're going to invest in this idea. And they've decided to add 4 more new locations, 2 at least, which are in New Brunswick and Newfoundland, that are coming soon. So they're expanding this concept. They've invested in it. They're expanding the concept of purchasing used EVs and reselling them in these regions. And, it's great for especially Eastern Canada, because this is a region of Canada where average incomes tend to be a bit lower in Canada as well, too. So getting EVs into the hands of people is fantastic, and this is a great model. And I hope to see this concept expand even more across Canada. So,
there's a couple of these that I've heard about in the United States, and I'm glad to see that the concept is starting to catch on here, because as we all know, with an electric vehicle, typically, if someone moves on from an electric vehicle to get another one, the one that they have is a lot less depreciated than a gas car. So it can go to a second family, a second home, where it can be enjoyed and let someone else catch the EV fever or begin their journey. So having a used vehicle being picked up for another family is a lot less of a risk than a gasoline car in a lot of cases, if not almost all. So it's good to see that we've got this secondary market starting up.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to keep growing as well. Sometimes I hear the argument that we can only find new EVs and they're not in the price range that I want. So this is definitely, I can see this happening in Ontario relatively soon as well, that we're going to get something along those lines, giving more opportunity for people who, especially those who are like, want to try an EV, but don't want to spend to buy a new one. They'd rather go with something used and go, try it out that way. A friend of mine up in Aurelia actually just bought a Nissan Leaf. I think it's pretty sure it's a first gen, and he's loving it. And he got a really good deal on it, and has been learning about the charging aspect of it and everything else. But yeah, I think Ontario, it could be relatively soon that we do have a used dealer in Burlington, but they're mostly Teslas that they're doing. So in terms of an all-around used EV, I think we're still kind of waiting on that in Ontario. Something like Simone Andre in Quebec is another company I'm thinking of that does used EVs.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Ontario is, it's kind of due. We need to get something that way.
If you want to see another example, one in the States that we have examined previously would be Current out of Chicago. So you can search current EV sales in Chicago, and it'll come up with their website, and pretty nice setup where you can just purchase online and get your questions answered.
Yeah, very cool. That's one of the things too, like with this all EV, is they do offer educational resources. So I think that's, again, another awesome opportunity for helping people who really don't know much about what they're getting into, have an interest in it, but great place to get your questions answered. And I'm sure in many respects, these guys all drive EVs and have for a while, so they, are able to give some proper information as well to the public.
Yeah, having that EV focused presence there, it really helps people with learning how to get into an EV. Yeah,
and if you buy an EV, you could also apply for one of their jobs and maybe work for the company now too. So I looked on their website; they had jobs available. So there you go. If you want to move out to New Brunswick, that is. I think did we talk about that in the last podcast? I think we did discuss that. So, all right. So this is interesting. Just down the road from us in Toronto, the Maryland Bell 1 has basically gone to its final phase of being retrofitted to fully electric battery-powered ferry. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting on this and seeing it. And, of course, we have in Niagara Falls, the Maid of the Mist, electrification aspect there. But as I was reading through the article, they were talking like, even, terminals, ferry terminals in Kingston, they're converting their electric ferries as well, and they get capacity for 400 and 300 passengers. And then Halifax is looking for 2024 for the launch of an electric ferry. BC as well, there is some out there that is being converted, and for these ships to be charged up, I was surprised at like how quickly they can charge these things up, especially with the Maid of the Mist in Niagara Falls. I can't remember what the time was necessarily, but it wasn't much to charge it up. It was pretty impressive. Mind you, they're right by Niagara Falls, so they got access to like power right there.
Yeah.
No, it's good to see that it's starting to take off. Again, this is another part of the transportation puzzle that is starting to be addressed. So people are always looking for different avenues to make travel more sustainable, and this is just another piece of that puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ferries make again, another great thing that makes a lot of sense. These are they make a lot of short trips. They're often stopped for a period of time to let cars and people on and off. And during that time they can get that boost charge every single time. And we've seen that model work in Norway. Now, Norway's been electrifying their fleet for quite some time now in the ferries. And they've seen it work even in the winters and stuff like that up there. And they run, very large battery packs, but they run them in a fairly narrow range. And basically they just give them that a really high power boost charge every time they stop. So they're parked for 30 minutes and they get a big charge in that 30 minutes to get them back to the other side, where they can get another charge for 30 minutes. So yeah,
it's pretty amazing. And like you say, the electrification of transport, this is now happening with the ferries. But one other thing I came across just tonight was a plane in Scotland. They originally had test flights in Hawaii. Now it's being flown in Scotland, and one engine is full gas, one engine is electric. And they're showing a lot of success with that. I think the idea is that they use the gas to actually get the plane up, and once the plane's up, then they switch over to electric. And so it's like a hybrid system that way. So pretty neat. All right. And here in our Waterloo region, we're getting more EV chargers.
Yeah, so it was announced just last week that Waterloo Region is going to be receiving another 46 vehicle chargers for our region. And again, it's coming from the federal government fund, and the fund, as you can see here, $230,000 in funding for these 48 chargers. And of course, the region is also contributing money into the project to get it complete. What is not clear is where these chargers are going, or specifically the type of chargers. We're guesstimating that a lot of these will be L2, if not all. Within the region, these would be hopefully set up in an area where people that are visiting or are coming to the region could get themselves a quick charge for a couple hours and then be able to move on to another area or continue their journey. But these do appear to be that type of a charge where it would be someone spending a few hours as opposed to a quick charge near a highway. But with the details that we did receive, they have indicated that these particular 46 will be up and running by January 31st of 2022. So, that's about 6 months away. So we're going to keep our eye on this and try to find out from some other releases as to where these chargers are actually going to reside.
Yeah, this is great news as well too. More infrastructure is great. One thing I've found, especially in the Waterloo region, is there's pretty decent charging for the most part in Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo, though there certainly could be improvements there. In areas where like Elmira, New Hamburg, and stuff like that, there is no charging at all whatsoever. And it'd be nice to get some level 2 chargers in those locations, so that when you're spending some time maybe having dinner in the central part of Elmira or New Hamburg, that you can stop and plug in and get a level 2 charge there too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that it's every time I think we do a podcast, we are discussing all the new chargers that are being installed, whether it be across Canada with a company like Ivy, or we're getting more local chargers. I mean, we're just talking about Waterloo Region here, but I'm sure we go online and look into other districts, we're going to be seeing that as well. So. The whole where do I charge? It's getting to the point. It's like, where don't you charge?
Yeah.
They're all over the place now. Yeah.
And I think what people that aren't in the know, people that do not currently own an electric vehicle, maybe do not quite understand, is that this question of where is my next charge coming from is really, in my world, pretty well non-existent. And I think you two will agree as well, because of course what you don't get in owning a gasoline car is that when you have an electric car, the main charger that you use on a regular basis, on a daily basis, is that charger that you have at home. So every morning when you start your vehicle up, you've got a full charge from an overnight plug-in at your home or business. So this question of where do I charge, and I'm nervous and I've got range anxiety, that really goes away after a month or less of ownership of an EV, and you start to understand what your driving habit is, how far you actually drive, and starting in the morning with somewhere between 400 and 500 kilometers of range in your vehicle, and you only typically put on 40 to 60 kilometers in a day, guess what? It's non-existent. And you typically may not even plug a car in daily if you're doing those type of mileages. But you do have the option of doing that at home and being able to charge to full and have that 400 to 500 kilometer range sitting in your tank every morning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny how many people get really nervous about the range anxiety, and then that's where you got to start asking, well, what do you do? And definitely there are some people, we talk to, like, I commute 200 kilometers a day, they're a salesperson and all that. And that part of it, I totally get and understand. Even at that though, it's, like you say, we get 400 or 500 kilometers every morning when we wake up. So that's not really much of a worry either.
Yeah. I think, that serves a very large chunk of the population who are homeowners and stuff like that as well too, who are able to charge at home and do that. So it's certainly a large percentage of the population that's a reality for them. But there's also, you know, the segment of the population that live in condos or in apartment buildings that, you know, getting access to charging might be a little bit more challenging or difficult. Even though, you know, there are condos now that are mandated to start entertaining those types of things, it can be a challenge for some people. And so having this extra charging out and about and the extra level 2 charging and even DC fast charging in different regions, all that is very helpful to help speeding the adoption and getting things through. So yeah, in many cases, this is just about increasing the convenience of owning an electric car. I mean,
Yeah.
If everywhere you stop, you can charge, I mean, range anxiety goes away.
Yep, pretty much. It's not so much to worry about. Yeah.
And electricity is pretty much almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's in more places than gas. So
yeah. Although I don't want to be charging for 24 plus hours at somebody's like one-time outlet.
but the nice thing is every place you go where you stop, there's access to accessible charging. Then you don't need to be plugging in at level 1 or doing that to charge. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's good to see. All right. This I got a real kick of, and I watched a first-person view video of and also video of this, like them coming at you, and the speed on these things. Like I'm just reading here, top speed for electric unicycles 82 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, I know that's crazy.
Yikes! It's one thing to do that on a motorbike, but now you just got one wheel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot of momentum. But yeah, it is pretty interesting that we're starting to see an onslaught of these types of products entering the marketplace today. Different kinds of unicycles or two-wheel scooters or skateboards and all sorts of personal electric vehicles, PEVs. And I think PEVs actually do have a big potential for especially urban environments, for people who maybe have a 3 or 4 kilometer commute or something like that. They can, instead of taking a car, they can take one of these instead. And, you know, there's a good potential for that. Now, obviously, having some of them that can go up to 82 kilometers an hour, that might be a little crazy, but I certainly think, you know, municipalities and even governments in general need to start thinking about, you know, how to properly incorporate that into the infrastructure in many urban environments as well too, and how to do that safely. So
yeah, having this type of mobility added to like a bicycle type lane makes a lot of sense. To have those vehicles mandated, you know, speed wise. Certainly you can't have an 80-kilometer vehicle zipping in a bike lane. That's just not going to work. But there's a number of different bicycles out there that are electrically assisted that can go up to, I believe, legally 24 kilometers an hour is the maximum.
Yeah.
So, you know, be a building for that type of structure where definitely a one-wheeled item could go in there, as well as a skateboard that's electrically assisted. You know, as long as the speeds are, you know, semi-close. You don't want to have the difference of, you know, huge differences where vehicles would be whizzing by you while you're, you know, strolling to work on your on a bicycle, a regular bicycle. So it's something that I guess we have to be cognizant of those type of regulations as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if you see one of these guys doing 80 kilometers an hour in a 40, do they get stopped for stunt driving?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have to impound your wheel. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too is like the 128 kilometers that they get on a charge, you know, or can last up to, like, that's really impressive as well. I don't know, the one wheels, they're starting at about $2,700 and then go up from there. So they're not a cheap acquisition if you want to get into something like this. But I did really enjoy watching the video of these guys flying. Yeah, it was amazing.
And as the technology improves and as batteries improve, the costs of these are going to go down as well too. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess there's no sort of form of airbag that can be,
Well, I suppose you could use a motorcycle jacket. There's some motorcycle jackets that have accelerometers or even have pull cords built into them that when you fall, they'll automatically inflate.
Mm.
So you could probably use a similar technology like this on something like this.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Let's just keep the 20 kilometers an hour. How's that
That's
sound?
also true too. Yeah.
And what do you do when a squirrel jumps out in front of you? And even worse, what do you do if a cat or deer? I mean, these guys are talking about they're going to like trips to Burlington, and there was even discussion of them going to Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Oh, nothing like seeing a pack of people on scooters and one-wheel devices on the QEW heading towards Niagara Falls.
Yeah. We're up to a wine tour.
You have electric unicycle gangs.
Yeah. So this isn't scooter trash anymore. There's got to be a different name for it. One-wheel trash or something. All right. So our last slide, and giving you an update on the boat. I think the next time we do a podcast, I will probably be able to tell you how the boat is performing, because taking the boat out this Sunday to Conestoga Lake, and lots of been discussion about how am I towing this boat out. Thought about the Model 3. It does tow with the Model 3, but the range, of course, this is a 3,000 pound, between the trailer and the boat, it's easily 3,000 pounds. But anyways, the updates is that the canopy has been done. The canopy is working awesome with terms of charging the batteries. I did end up driving to Montreal to get the BMS fixed. We were having some issues with it, and sure enough, it was a problem that the company had never seen before, and I got it. Anyways, but a shout out to Volts Energies for giving me a hand with getting it fixed, and the BMS has been working awesome. You can see on the BMS status, the state of charge is 91.94%. So we're charging the batteries between 90 and 92%, no more. And then the discharge, we won't go anything less than 20%. But we have been told that full throttle this boat would drive on the full charge 2.5 hours roughly, maybe even 3 if you include the solar in that. So I'm not sure we're going to be going full throttle for 3 hours unless we're traveling up Georgian Bay. But even at that, so looking forward to finally getting this project out on the water, and to see. It'll be interesting to see what the other boaters, is going along. I'm sure they'll see the solar and they'll be curious on the whole thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, for testing purposes there, Ian, I think we're going to have to try to run this thing for 2.5 hours straight, full throttle.
Oh yeah. It'll be when we're trying to race away from, if there's the police on the lake or something like this. We'll go into a police chase.
Yeah.
A 21-foot pontoon boat will not be hard for them to catch up to.
What type of speed are you estimating with the motor that you have and the size of the pontoon boat? What are you talking speed wise? Do you think this is going to get up to in calm waters?
I've been told probably around 15, 16 kilometers an hour.
Okay.
So it's not too bad,
Yeah.
Anyone I've talked to with a pontoon boat, they basically say you putt around. It's a floating living room.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is.
It's the polar opposite of a speedboat, yes.
Yeah. So now, mind you, a friend of mine just showed me a speedboat that was 29 feet. With a full Model S battery pack in it, and I can't remember what the horsepower. It was something crazy, I want to say like 700 horsepower with the batteries and everything else, but it was $300,000 too.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
some of the normal speedboats get up there too. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this boat is easily a tenth of that. So, but
And I especially like the electric Jolly Roger flag hanging off the back of the boat.
that was a must. Yeah, that was an absolute must. Oh man! But
I was gonna mention you in your next projects now to put electric motors in the trailer and use the batteries in your boat to power the trailer too.
yeah, you know what? And it's funny. Like now that we've seen this with this trailer unit, I would imagine that down the road could be done. You know, if you already got your boats electrified and then you're now taking it to a lake, I could totally see them, you know, just working sabbatical in that respect. So get a couple of Anderson connectors and, you know, just, yeah. And then we got the solar canopy on top again. So yeah, why not? Yeah. That next project will be a while though. After this project, I'm going to be waiting for a little bit before I do anything more. It's already, this has been quite a project, and you know, I have to give a big shout out to my friends Mark and Mike Melvin, who helped me with this. They're brothers who I actually grew up with and went to public school with, and they both ended up in Waterloo like myself. They're both engineers and extremely smart guys, and they both really helped me a lot with learning about this project, and everything from woodworking to electronics to you know, 3D printing. You know, actually, a lot of the brackets are you know, they're manufactured by a company that does, of course, Steele, but they're laser cut out, and they're going from 3D CAD printouts that, you know, Mark did. And if you look on the solar panels, there's some orange brackets there. Those were all 3D printed. To print all the brackets took 4 days, 24 hours. So, Mark, I owe you some spool of those 3D things. And yeah, but anyways, you know, they helped me a lot. That's for sure.
Very good, very good. So hopefully our next show we'll have some video to share.
For sure.
Well, with that, we want to thank everyone for watching with us this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Hopefully it's sometime in August. And we wish you the best. And if you can, please give us a thumbs up at this point for the video. If you would like to be alerted to when the next video debuts, just press that subscribe button. Both those actions help us out and spread the word of this particular podcast, and we certainly appreciate you doing that for us. And with that, any shout outs, Eric, for the end of the show?
Nothing specific other than I look forward to getting to ride on Ian's boat. So
as we all do, yes.
Yeah.
How's that going to fit the complete the Waterloo Region EVA group? There's like, you know, at least 100 solid members. Yeah, boat hold 100 people at a time?
Yeah, no kidding. It will hold 11 people, according to what the little plaque says. I could pull an in or two with a couple people, maybe.
So WREVA tours over the course of 10 weeks, you know, 10 weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Ian, any shout outs for the end of the show?
Shout outs to Volts Energy in Quebec and to Elco Motors for the actual boat motor. They're starting to advertise with social media more. People like myself who are doing electrified boats. You know, I just saw they just had a guy on who had a 50 horsepower Elco motor, I think with I want to say a 16 to 18 foot boat, kind of like a fishing boat. And man, that thing flew. It was amazing to watch. And so Brandon at Elco, thanks again for all the help. And, you know, yeah, Mark and Mike Melvin for the labor.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, everyone, have yourselves a great week, and we will see you back in September sometime. So until then, stay safe, stay happy, and enjoy the rest of the summer while you can, because sooner or later it's going to start snowing. So enjoy it while you can.
Have a
Good night,
one.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.